Hello and well met. This is founder Laerun from Fantasy Grounds College. I wanted to make a video regarding sidekicks. Sidekicks are basically an NPC or an extra character that you can either play or the game master can play. There is a little bit of confusion or maybe some kind of misunderstanding about how sidekicks work. So I'm going to go over that right now, and hopefully this will help you with your Fantasy Grounds, especially when it comes to creating characters or NPCs, depending on what you need to do. There are two types of sidekicks. One was introduced to us with the D&D Essentials set, which came out last summer, I believe. Basically, that would cover NPCs. So what I have here on the left, I have the Expert, I have two different spellcasters and two different warrior types. These come straight out of the D&D Essentials Kit rulebooks. They are all at first level, which is what they recommend you start them at. However, that may not suit your needs. So if you need to create a character, NPC, in this case a sidekick, you're going to have to learn how to alter these sheets or these NPC stat blocks to fit your needs. Also in the Tasha's rulebook are the suggested levels. So for instance, for a spellcaster, beyond first level, you already have the stat blocks for the first level, but when you go to build your character, it gives you a list of what basically you get for this particular type of sidekick. So this is for spellcasters. It gives you their basic level, their hit point, and the new features that they gain as they level up. So this is just a guide, and it gives you a rough idea of what these characters would get. So in this case, for a spellcaster, they earn another spell. At third level, they gain another slot. They also learn another spell. At fourth level, they get an ability score improvement, and they get to learn another cantrip. And then at fifth level, they get a proficiency bonus and more spell slots. And then at sixth level, they get more potent cantrips. So that is just an idea of what the things would change, so that if you modify any of these, that you will be able to add or take away or whatever it is you need to do to adjust your sidekick NPCs. In this case, these are all copyright protected. They have the little lock on there and it's kind of pink, so it's read only. So if you wanted to redo this Expert, you would first take and make a copy. So I'm in the group called D&D Essentials Kit Rulebook. So in my library, I have the rulebook loaded. So you have to have that. Then these NPCs will show up in your NPC area in your sidebar. And in this particular case, this is the Expert, which is kind of like a rogue or maybe a bard type thing. So this is the stat block. So all I'm going to do is drag and drop it over back into this section. So in other words, you can make a copy of this, and then you'll be able to edit it. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this back into the same area, the same box. And now you have one called Expert Copy. With this copy, I am now able to edit. I can unlock the character sheet. I can change the token if I want. I could even, I can change a lot of different things. I can even give it the name that I'd prefer instead of Expert. So what I'm going to do is change this to Expert Level 3. That way I have a differentiation between the two. And now I'm going to pull up the data from Essentials Rulebook. And this is what they suggest. So right now he only has 2d8 plus 2. So I'm going to change that to 3d8, which is your hit points. And then I'm going to increase the hit points to 16. Now this person can take some extra actions. In this case, cunning action. So anyone that plays rogues would understand cunning action. So I'm going to go ahead and add that trait to this actual character sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click the edit button down here, or this is the actual NPC stat block. And I hit the edit button. Now I'm going to click on the add item button, which is this plus button. And I'm going to talk about what this says here. So I'm going to call it cunning action. And then you can take the description of cunning action and put it on here. says on the expert's turn in combat, it can take dash, disengage, hide as a bonus action. So what I might do is put a little parentheses, like a B around it, so I understand that that's a bonus action. And then I would put the description in here. So I just manually type that in, or if you had a different source, you can copy and paste it. But that's basically what you would add to this character sheet for this level. See a little bit more hit points, and you get this trait, this cunning action trait. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the edit button again. That gets me out of the edit mode, or from adding another group. And now for third level, which is I'm going to make this character, or NPC, I should say. Let's see, 22 hit points. 4d8 plus, see in this case it's plus 4. And that plus kind of takes its level in consideration, and also potentially his or her proficiency bonus. Or level bonus in this case. Let's see. So it says expertise in... Okay, so the proficiency, the expertise bonus. Let's see. The dex score increases by 2 at 4th level. So the only thing we get to do in this one is choose 2 of the expert skill proficiencies. The proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check the expert makes that uses either of these chosen proficiencies. So in this case, this guy has, or girl has, all of these different skills. So I'm going to change it to 8 for stealth. That's 1. And then there's persuasion, sleight of hand, performance, and acrobatics. Probably going to go with persuasion. And basically now this is a third level expert. So at this point, if you wanted to add anything to it, you could. So if you wanted to add, like if you had a token. So I'll go into my token assets. So I'm in the asset folder, and I'm come over here to where it says data. Or rule set, in this case it's data. And then I have some tokens here that Bernardo made. He's a pretty nice guy that creates tokens. I'm going to grab this lore bard looking token, but there are others to choose from. There's some monk-like looking ones, there's a charlatan, there's some rogues in here that are more humanoid looking. I'm going to take that bard-looking guy. He has looks like either a scimitar or a rapier. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy. So that'll be his permanent token. And anytime you add anything to the character, it increases their potency. So you have to figure out the XP and the challenge rating as you build up. But that's basically how you create or NPCs that are sidekicks. So there is no build for that. So what I would do, honestly, is I would make all of these different variations, and that way you have the sidekick all the way, at least up to 6th level. That would make it a little easier for you in the long run. So I just build all these out, save it, export it as a module, and call it a sidekick module or something. So every time you load it, you always have all these sidekicks up to level 6 or higher. Another thing I would do probably is, if you look at this table, it is linked, or it is basically reiterated on the back side. So I was going to put this link here, but since it's already written on the back of the character sheet, I don't need to do that. So this is perfect. It's already here. So you don't have to change. So that is an example of how you would adjust for a character that's an NPC. And then you'd have to pick what type of NPC. So you have two different warrior types, an attacker and a defender. You have a healer and a mage for spellcasters. And then over here, we had the expert. So that is the first thing that was introduced this season or this year with the Essentials Kit. And it was introduced in the, God, I want to say last year or the year before. But it's been around for a little bit. I think it was like last spring. But that actually gives you an option to have your NPCs sort of pretend, or sort of like they are, you know, like player characters. They are still limited. And then for type, I would say humanoid 3rd level. So then I'm going to assume that this is a human. Now, if it was an elf or a different type of race, I would also add the traits that belong to the race. And then any proficiencies and weapons they have, I'd probably add that here. So like this, in this case, it says short sword, when actually the picture that I use looks more like a rapier. So I'd probably go in here and call this rapier. And we're going to call this 1d8. The 2-hit is correct. And now the damage is correct. And I changed the hit to 6. So basically that's adjusting for this character or NPC. So I did this because it matches the photo a little bit better, and I think it's cool to have a rapier instead of a short sword. So it also has a dagger and a short bow. So that's kind of up to you what you want to do with it. But that's basically how you would adjust for that if you had to. So now the other thing that's happening is that we have Tasha's, which is a fairly new book. And it has the 3 options: a spellcaster, a warrior, and an expert. And these are the tables for it. So when you build one of these, it'll be more like a character. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a character sheet. And I'm just going to call this one warrior. Actually, let's do a spellcaster. It's a little bit more complex. So this will be a spellcaster. Spellcaster Sidekick. Now, I don't know if I want it to be a wizard or a healer yet, but I definitely want a spellcaster. So you would pick the background just like you would with any other character. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the backgrounds. And this is some type of spellcaster. So whether it's a wizard or a healer of some sort, I'm going to give it the, let's give it the sage background or some sort of useful, somebody that's kind of smart. So, or maybe a spy would be cool. Anyways, I'll give it the sage. I think that's a cool background. So still has the sage background. Now, ideally, I would want to adjust the ability scores first, but I'm just going to leave those as they are. I'm not going to change anything, just so you can see what changes and what doesn't. So there's your sage background that adds the skills and such and languages. Now I'm going to grab a race. So in this case, I'll make this an elf of some sort. And now we have all these choices. So I'm going to make it a high elf. And it adds all the traits for being a high elf. And of course it does the dex bonus and the intelligence bonus. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. It already adds all that in. So I picked the race and then the sub-race. Now the next thing is class and level. So when you pick your class, I usually open up this little magnifying glass and I'll drag over the particular class I want. So this is from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So I have it filtered to that. If you leave it on all, you'll have everything on here from all your books. So I just have it on Tasha's right now. And what I'm going to do is go through here and... Oops, that's the wrong one. There's two groups, one for characters and then one for sidekicks. So I'm going to pick Spellcaster. And I get to pick 2 more skills. So I'm going to look at my skills tab. I know I have Arcana, History, and Perception. And I got Perception from being an elf. So I'm definitely going to do the... Let's see. Probably Persuasion. And the next thing would be probably Investigation. So that's good. And the spellcaster only has a D4 die to use for its hit die. So it is very low on hit points. So the next thing I'm going to do is, instead of... I'm not going to go through and do anything else to it until I update it. So I'm going to go ahead and update it by adding another level. So this process is just like character creation. You drag this shield on the right hand side here on the class and level pop-up window. There's a little hand here that appears next to use. It's that little pin next to it. That pin is actually a shortcut. So I'm going to drag the shortcut down to the hotkeys. That way if I close this accidentally, I can find it again. And you just drag and drop this back into the same area. And it basically boosts you up. You got another level, you got more hit points. And now I'm going to go to level 3. And there we go. So I have 10 hit points now. I have a very modest stat block here. And I have all my skills, or most of them. I have all these traits. My proficiencies, I have to pick some languages. There's an inventory sheet here that I picked up, so this is probably for my background, which I believe it is. And since I'm a spellcaster of some sort, I have to figure out if I'm going to be a wizard or a cleric. So that will depend on my what I set for my starting equipment. So we'll see. You have notes here. I'm going to make this guy neutral good. And that was already added down here. And then you have, so you already got the size and alignment dealt with. Okay, so I think I'm going to give him a dagger. Probably doesn't need it, but, you know, it's a simple weapon in case he loses his staff. And then he can also throw it. So that gives him something to throw. Because he really doesn't have too many missile weapons. Although his spells might be. So let's take a look at that. So I want to bring back up his spellcasting information. It says to gain a spellcaster, you have to have at least one language on its stat block. Well, he does. A sidekick gains the following features as it gains levels in this class, as summarized. Okay, so you have +2 proficiency bonus, bonus proficiency, spellcasting, nothing else gained. You have 2 cantrips known and 3 spells known, and the most you can have is 3 first level. So I don't know. Oh wait, no. Yep, that is exactly what it says. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do exactly what it says. So I get 2 cantrips at first level and up to 3 known, but I still have second level slots. That just means I have more slots to use. That doesn't mean I can cast second level spells. Because it says here you don't get any until you're up to like 5th level. So I will do that. I'm going to go to spell. Now again, I'm using a third-party product. This is Rob 2E class features and racial traits. I need to add the module, but basically I will just use the player's handbook one this time. So if I go to all, and then I take this and go down to level 0, I'm filtering out this list, and then I'm going to go to wizard. I get 2. So I'm going to give him Firebolt. So that gives him a little offense. I'm dragging it up here where it says spell slots. And then Mage Hand will be the other. So these are his cantrips, or her, depending on what you want to do with it. And now I'm going to filter this to level 1. And at the most, I can have 3 of these. So I definitely want to have Magic Missile, Mage Armor. So those are more utility. And then maybe Witch Bolt. No, that's more offensive. Let's go with either Disguise Self, Comprehend Languages, Detect Magic. I think those are kind of a waste of spell slots. Let's go with Grease. I always like that spell. So the reason I chose that was so that in case I can control the battlefield, like slow people down, I have a protective spell and I have an offensive spell. So at 3rd level, I can cast this or a 1st level spell. If I cast this at 2nd, I can get an extra missile out of it. So for each spell slot above 1st, I can create another extra missile. So that's cool. So even though I don't have any 2nd level spells, I can empower them. So that would be good for this. Mage Armor, you can't change that. And either you same thing with Grease. So the 2nd level spell slots will help with those magic missiles mostly. So here we go. We have all our stuff, and it's basically the Sidekick. I mean, there's more things I can add or fix, but basically that's how you build your Sidekicks. They're just like a character. They're just a little bit more limited, and they have less things, a little less hit die, you know, that sort of thing. Looks like this character is ready to go. I mean, it's pretty much got most of its stuff. I haven't picked all the languages that it's supposed to get. So I would see this as choice, so I'd change that to Sylvan. Gonna add Dwarvish. And probably Infernal. He has to deal with occult-like things. So this is basically a nice standard group of languages that this one has. And then the elf weapon training would technically give me access to the short bow and the short sword, longbow. But I would have to add that manually. So I'm proficient with those, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm using them. Supposedly I get a free cantrip, so I didn't pick that yet. So being in High Elf, you get to pick a bonus cantrip. So let me go back to level 0. And I get one more racial-based ability, and I believe, or cantrip. And I believe I want to have prestidigitation. A little presto in the house. So that's a pretty good start. So anyways, that's the difference between having stuff from Tasha's and having stuff from the D&D Essentials. So hopefully that helps you. I didn't want to make this video too long, but this will help you get started on Sidekicks and to understand how they would work in Fantasy Ground. So as a quick recap, your spellcasters from NPCs are going to have to be separate stat blocks, or you're going to have to edit one. So there's, you can either make a copy or you can go from scratch. And on your PCs, you have 3 choices, and you level them up and add features to them just like you would a standard character. So again, that's from the D&D Essentials for the NPCs, and Tasha's covers the player characters. So have a good afternoon. Again, this is Founder Laerun. Happy gaming, and see you around the community. Bye-bye.